this would happen, I would say, pretty quickly, at least in terms of the official offer going out. He was someone that, if you really followed recruiting, if you follow it more casually, maybe not, but if you really followed recruiting and followed all the little updates throughout the summer, particularly throughout June, we were talking about who's at camp, who's a guy to watch. You maybe picked up on this name, but Triston Lewis from Greenwood commits to South Carolina on Thursday. He is a high school quarterback, but is being offered and then committed as a defensive back to South Carolina. 6'3.5", 195 pounds, verified in camp, a 4.6 40-yard dash guy, 4.5 in the shuttle. Don't know his vertical, but I was told it was a good number as well. And Chris, is this your kind of your traditional, I would say classic Palmetto State under the radar guy? And not that all these guys are going to pan out either. Like let's be clear, they don't always pan out, but it is a situation where there's a lot of check marks here where you're going, Carolina has had success, particularly with Torian Gray as the developer. They've had success taking guys who've played quarterback, letting them move along to the defensive backfield, as long as they have sort of those athletic check marks that we know Torian Gray, we know Clayton White are very, very prone to kind of leaning into.
Yeah, I mean, and you can think of some guys that they've taken from the state that have been not very highly heralded, Wes, and then turned them into, NFL type talents, right? I mean, you think of not a quarterback, but Darius Rush, who was recruited as a wide receiver, was a 2 or 3 star guy, depending on when you looked at the process, and took some time to develop, but had those athletic traits. Still remember him coming through camp, and he was a guy that, was recruited by the previous staff, but the newer staff at South Carolina really put him on the next level in terms of his development. But he was a guy that had length, he could run, he could jump, right? Like, he had the physical traits. Judge Collier coming through. Judge Collier had service academy offers. I think Boston College offered him, but just a kid that you look at him, super long arms, put up good testing times, and is a guy that Torian Gray looked at and said, that guy's got the traits that I'm looking for in a defensive back. So, I think with Lewis, just looking at those 2 examples I gave, and there's others, and there's quarterbacks who, converted to DB, et cetera. This is a guy that I think will probably need more development, at least you could argue, because now he's coming in to play DB for the first time. DQ Smith, good example, high school quarterback at Spring Valley, played quarterback, had not played defensive back since 8th grade, gets in, Torian Gray gets him ready, kid plays as a freshman, summer enrollee, right? So it can be done, and Torian Gray's got the track record to do it. So you look at Triston Lewis, 6'4", another guy that for his size can run, can jump, he's athletic. They feel like he's coachable, teachable, and feel like that he has the traits that can translate to a successful player. Will take some development, but clearly they feel like he's got the tools to where he can do that.
Yeah, some people are joking in the chat, by the way, about the now just viral. I mean, took just the internet by storm.
Yeah.
Coldplay concert, CEO with his HR person. Everybody at this point knows what I'm talking about. Like, would it be too deep of a cut for us to have Torian Gray sitting there and then defensive backs over 6'2"? Because people have been memeing it of things they love.
Yes.
I mean, it might be a deep cut, but I feel like if you're a Gamecock recruiting person, it tracks.
Accurate. Or the meme where, it's like the guy looking back whistling or whatever, that classic one. And he's definitely looking back at the defensive back over 6'1" with long arms type of thing. Oh yeah.
It's like a shorter corner 5-star everybody wants, and then he's looking back at the 6'2" corner with no offers.
No offers. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny, man, because Torian will recruit a highly rated guy. He'll recruit a Jalewis Solomon, he'll coach a Cam Smith, right? Who's a 4-star, pretty big time guy, but he doesn't care. Doesn't matter to him. If you got what he's looking for, that's all that matters.
R.L. Smith says the Drake orange coat meme is what. Yeah, you could go a lot of ways with this thing, man. Jacob earlier, Jacob Crocker. I keep wanting to call him a Jacob Coker from back in the day, but saw a picture of him working with Judge while at camp. There actually are some similarities here. I feel like to Judge Collier when you look at just the pure length of these guys. Now, I do think that Tristan may be a little bit bigger than Judge at the same stage, a little bit bigger frame, but I thought this was fascinating, Chris. I got a message. So the kid himself said, hey, they offer me as a safety. Like that's kind of the broad position. I think offered as defensive back is actually more accurate because I was told, hey, like we think this kid can play corner. We think he can play nickel. Like could he ultimately end up at safety? Of course. But I typically think you look at these guys and you say, if we think they can play one of the more coverage-oriented positions, start them there first, try them out. And then if you have a 6'2", 6'3", in this case 6'3.5" guy who can actually play corner, then you've found something. We've seen Kilgore probably put himself in a position to make a ton of money by showing he can play nickelback and cover some of these smaller slot receivers. And so this kid will get a look at those positions. At least that's the plan right now. This stuff can always shift before you get on campus. But that's the way the staff sees it. And, man, Chris, from what I was told, like, they like love this kid. Like they're all in on this offer. I think they wanted to offer him in June, but I think they were just already so far down the road with so many other defensive backs, and so many of them already had OVs set. You were like getting close to commitment time. I think they were a little bit conservative with it, and but once it became apparent there was going to be room for him in this class, they jumped on it, and he jumped on the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think we've seen some fans on the Insiders Forum on Gamecock Central expressing appreciation of a situation like this, right? Now, you still have to sign really good players, which, as you just said, Wes, they think Triston Lewis can be that. So it's not just about take the guys who want to be here, right? You get yourself in trouble with that. If you just take a class full of guys that just want to be here who can't play, then that's not good, right? But when you find that right mix, I think people appreciate that, especially like in the NIL era where you know what you wanted, you got it, and you don't beat around the bush. You don't waste any time. You jump on it. That's exactly what he did with this offer.
Yeah, no doubt. Rob says there's always a guy in nearly every cycle that comes out of this state that is underrated, not highly recruited, that becomes a stud. Absolutely, man. And Charles Power talks about that a lot. The guys in this state, he always uses the phrase bubble up, like they bubble up to the surface at different points in the process. And absolutely true. You just got to pick the right ones, I think, is the important part.